Can you actually make a living as a writer while making an impact? Our guest is an award-winning journalist, author, and founder of a popular writing community. And since 2011, she's been helping women make an impact and an income with their writing. This will be a delicious conversation and inspirational. So stay tuned for the Startup Life Live show. Let's glow, everyone. Get ready to dance. Here we go. Woohoo! And boom. Hello and welcome everyone to the Startup Life Live show. I'm your host, Andy Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I got to tell you, I have a deep appreciation and hands-on experience of what you all are crawling through every single day. You know, sometimes it's like popping the champagne one minute and crying into it the next. It's an incredible journey. So I'm so grateful that you carved out time to tune in and grab the gems from our delicious conversation and up your founder game. Because as you do better, your business will do better. And hearty welcome to all the viewers tuning in live today and to the wonderful replay video viewers. Hello, and my podcast listeners. I'm so grateful that you are tuning in, and I'm sending you a big love hug from Boston. If you're tuning in from YouTube, take a moment, if you haven't done so already, and click on that subscribe button. I'm so appreciative of that because the more subscribers, the more Google will send out these videos to help founders around the world on their founder journey. And how do you know whenever I post a new show and incredible founders and folks like today's guests that we have on the show? Well, you join the Startup Life Live meetup group. That way you'll get an alert whenever I post a new show and have another fascinating guest that we'll be having a delicious conversation with. And if you resonate with the Startup Life Live's mission of amplifying diverse founder voices while serving first-time founders around the world, please reach out to me to learn more about how you can make a greater impact on the startup ecosystem through sponsoring the Startup Life Live show. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest, Javacia Harris Bowser. Oh my gosh, Javacia. Anyway, I'm going to put up her book because we're going to be really promoting this today. Folks will have a chance to win a free copy of Find Your Way Back. Let me tell you a little bit about our guest, Javacia. She's an award-winning freelance journalist and the founder of C. Jane Wright, which a friend of hers once called the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pens. C. Jane Wright is a website and community for women who write and blog that Javacia founded in 2011 in her hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. Her newly released book, Find Your Way Back, is a collection of essays that demonstrate how Javacia used writing to achieve some of her wildest dreams, such as being a public speaker, having her own column, and being her own boss. The book also explores how writing, self-love, and faith helped her overcome her worst nightmare, a cancer diagnosis. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to bring her into the full screen here. I got my clappers ready. Let's give her a hearty welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So happy that you are here. Where are you hailing from today? Let everybody know.
I am here in Birmingham, Alabama.
Beautiful Birmingham, Alabama, right?
Beautiful, warm and sunny Birmingham, Alabama.
That's so wonderful. Hey, folks who are tuning in live, let us know where you're hanging out. Also, remember, today I'm giving away a free copy of Javacia's book. Hold on. Find Your Way Back, right? So if you leave a comment, you will automatically be entered to win. There, oh, see, she's holding it up. I love that. A free copy of her book. Oh my gosh. And remember, this show gets hundreds, sometimes thousands of replay views. All right. So amplify your startup, amplify your brand. All you have to do is put the name of your business, your one-liner, and the URL, bring it up, and Javacia and I will, gosh, And so definitely do that. And do not hesitate to ask a question during our conversation. Javacia is brilliant. Okay. This is a brain that you want to pick, and she will definitely provide insights and advice for any journey that you're on, but especially the founder journey and the writing journey. And so a quick hi to Spiffy Eats. Come on. Who's this? Share. Do you
Yeah.
know?
Tell us more about you in the chat. She is, I know who this is. A very talented writer and photographer specializing in food. She's also a TikTok expert. So,
Oh, I want to follow you. So please share your URL and your one-liner. And we have, is it Keezy? Listening from Dallas. So happy you're tuning in. Grateful to have you join us for a delicious conversation, because we're going to go in a little history about our wonderful guest. And so let me just start off with some great questions for you. And, because we all get started on certain pathways, and sometimes they're kind of haphazard. We are there minding our own business when whoop, we slipped into something. I was always the reluctant entrepreneur, almost accidental. When you recently posted this wonderful IG reel, and folks, if you're not following Javacia on Instagram, you've got to hop on over there right away. Links are in the show notes. Such a wonderful profile and great information. But you had a wonderful reel showing your writing journey from the age of 11 to 38. So I'm curious, like, what called you to want to write so early and as a young girl?
my mom says that I've been writing since I could sit up straight. So I've been writing all my life. And my earliest memory of writing, I was about 7 or 8 years old. My best friend was about to move away. And I was mad at him for being willing to move away, as if a 7 or 8-year-old has control over where they live.
I know.
But I was mad at him nonetheless. And so I was mean to him right before he left, because I thought it would be easier to accept him leaving if I had been mean to him. So then he leaves, and then I feel really sad that I was mean. So I wrote a poem to apologize. And of course, it was terrible because I was 7 or 8 years old, but I felt so much better after I wrote that poem. And it was in that moment that I realized that writing could make me feel better, that when something bad or sad or something made me mad or whatever happened in my life, I could write and I would feel better about it. And so that's really where it started. And I started writing then, and I just never stopped.
Javacia, that is such a beautiful story. Listeners and viewers, I'm never going to forget. My mother says I've been writing since the moment I could sit up. I mean, as a mom, I'm thinking about I don't know what the ABCs are, but I know I can write. I mean, you hear that about someone who can sing from day one, but not write. That is so great. So how did that translate as you moved through high school? And did you find yourself, because you went toward journalism, what kind of writing did you do as you sort of started to step into your womanhood?
Yeah, so I've done all types of writing. So as I mentioned, I started with poetry, and then I kept writing poetry. I remember in the 5th grade, I declared I was going to be a poet when I grew up, because I was really into Maya Angelou at the time. And then one day someone was like, well, you can't make money as a poet. What are you going to do to make money? And I was like, I don't know. But someone had mentioned to me journalism. And I loved, when I was a preteen and teenager, I loved reading magazines. I still do. I was just obsessed with magazines. And then I learned about journalism and learned that if I became a journalist, I could write for magazines, maybe even start my own magazine. And so I was in high school when I took a journalism elective. And through that, I realized that I really liked writing other people's stories too. So, I'd done poetry. Also in middle school, I did a lot of fiction. But in high school, I realized, oh, I like telling true stories too. And I like telling other people's stories as well, so not just my own.
Right.
So all of this, I was also journaling constantly. But it was really in high school that I decided, okay, I want to try this journalism thing. And so I went on to study journalism and become a journalist.
There you go. And you got serious about it because you went and got your master's in journalism. So, you decided to go deep into journalism as a way to be fully expressed, but also to earn income to support your poetry habit. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I just want to say hello quickly. Hello, Joanna. Thank you for tuning in from New York City. Hello, LinkedIn user. I don't know why it's not showing who you are, but I'm so happy you're here with V and Javacia.
Hello, everyone.
And Renee. Why don't you go ahead and read this one, Javacia?
Yay. Hey, Renee. Yes, I know Renee. She's from Alabama here. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, she's saying hello, everyone from Harvest, Alabama. I don't even know where that is, but that's wonderful. And Kesey says, yes, that sounds a lot like me. I work as an accountant today trying to publish my first book.
Oh, exciting.
You're a side hustler. That's what we call it in the entrepreneur world, right? It's getting ready and doing the work to keep the roof over your head and food in your tummy while you set yourself up to pursue your passion. I love this. Well, we always like to talk about what lights up a founder's heart. And in your case, you were tapped into journalism. You like to tell your stories. We also like to tell other people's stories, and you honed your craft, which is so important, everybody, especially in this founder journey. You're not prepared for this journey, no matter what anybody tells you. There are no courses for this journey other than doing it. But once you get into the role, then you got to up your game as you see where your holes are or you hire out. So when did you, Javacia, become a writerpreneur?
Ooh, so it's funny. Earlier you mentioned the phrase accidental entrepreneur, which is how I often describe myself. Because when I started CJ Wright, I didn't start it to be a business. A quick background. So I worked as a journalist, but I also always wanted to teach. There was something else I always wanted to do. And so in 2009, I left my newspaper job, moved back to Birmingham, which is where I'm from, and to teach at an amazing school. It's called the Alabama School of Fine Arts, and it's like FAME, if you remember that show. It's like FAME, but with a STEM program, because we have a math and science program too. But anyway, so I moved back to teach, but I knew I wanted to continue to write. And I also knew that balancing teaching and writing, we're talking about having that side hustle, I knew that was going to be difficult. And I knew it would be easier if I had a group of women writers kind of cheering me on. So I kept looking for a women's writing group, but I couldn't find the kind of group that I was looking for. I found one for children's book writers, but I don't write children's books. I found one for romance writers, but I don't write romance. So I couldn't find the group I was looking for. And I looked for 2 years, and I couldn't find it. So I started my own after people kept telling me I should. But it was just meant to be me hanging out with other women writers. So I started hosting these events, things on, how writers can use Twitter and events on blogging and things like that. And it kept just getting bigger and bigger. But I was hosting all of these events, not charging for them, paying for everything out of pocket.
Just to have that support and accountability.
Right. And my husband, who's very supportive, but also is very frugal, was like, this is becoming a very expensive hobby here.
It's becoming a real cost center in our home.
Right. So I made CJ Wright an LLC really just to break even, honestly. Yeah. But it just kept growing. And I added a membership program and started doing courses and coaching and all of this stuff. And so I'm definitely an accidental entrepreneur.
Right. But you have the core ingredient, Javacia, which is that you wanted to solve that problem.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, I was trying to solve the problem for myself initially, right? That's why I started it. But then I kept it going and it kept growing because it was solving a problem for other women as well. It was giving them the community, but also the coaching that they needed to pursue their writing goals as well.
So now, and when you went to go and launch, because obviously you had to start building a website or some kind of landing page for people to go to, and you saw yourself going into this entrepreneurial role, had you had role models in your life for entrepreneurship? Or are you the first one who's diving in to entrepreneurship in your family?
Yeah, I'm definitely the first one in my family to do a lot of things. So I did not have a lot of role models in my everyday life. So I found a lot of, I call them my imaginary mentors. So basically, people online who were doing things similar to
Oh,
what.
come on. I have to write that down. I just seriously, my imaginary mentors. I got
Or
that's the best.
sometimes I call them my mindset mentors. So
Yeah,
they help me
sure.
with my mindset, but they're my mentors in my mind.
And who are some of your favorites?
One of my favorites would be Carrie Green of the Female Entrepreneur Association. Although, I mean, I've actually met her and had conversations with her at this point, but initially she was an imaginary mentor.
Yeah, sure.
But so she's definitely one, and she's not a writer, but she's an entrepreneur, and she has a membership program similar to what I'm
That's
trying
right.
to build. And so she's definitely a huge influence for me.
Excellent. So I'm just going to say a quick hi to your fan club here. Hey, Jasmine, thanks for tuning in. I don't know why LinkedIn isn't grabbing your headshot there.
Hey,
And
Jacqueline.
then it's hi
Oh,
to
Charlene. Hey, Charlene.
Oh, this is so great. And then Amy Meadows, she's saying it's so nice to hear from
Oh,
another writer who shares the same passion as I do, telling other people's stories. It's a special honor to be able to do that.
it really is.
It really is. And then look at this. Another thing to greetings. This is April, founder of the Corny. Oh, hi, April from the Corny Bread Company here in Boston. Oh, she is amazing. Folks, you know how much you love cornbread. Okay, so go check out the Corny Bread Company. April has nailed it with her recipe and makes it so much easier for you and a better experience than Jiffy. Just saying, out of the box. So
I
thank
love
you.
that name.
Isn't that great? The Corny Bread Company. She's like the best of foodies. We love her here. And then we have Jasmine Shaw. Hey, y'all, tuning in from BAM.
Jasmine, hello. Jasmine is a longtime CJ Wright member. She's also a freelance journalist as well. Oh, she says CJ Wright solves so many of my problems.
Isn't that great? You know, the testimonials, just keep them coming when it's so good to hear these when you're having a platform. And Jess was like, yeah, none of us need an excuse to eat more carbs. Bring it on. My pleasure, April. I'm just going to assume that that's you there. Oh my gosh. So let's move on because when you launched C. Jane Wright, you had to go through a lot of what every founder does, which is they have to. I mean, it was kind of unfolding on its own and taking off on its own, but you still had to tweak it. You still had to come up with a membership platform that would speak to the folks, where you would create the right engagement, where you add the right value. Talk a little bit about those early days, and how you began to get traction with the website. What did that look like? And was it always in-person events, or did you really find that you were able to digitally connect with people and create community digitally?
Right. So it started out with the in-person events. And as I mentioned, it kept growing. And so eventually I started doing virtual things as well, such as webinars. But another thing that I decided to do kind of in those early years was start a Facebook group, because I wanted to give people an opportunity to connect with each other, even when we weren't having an event. So I think the key is to cultivate community, even if it's online. Like, that is still a thing that you can do. And it became very important and essential, really, in the pandemic, because we couldn't meet with each other face to face.
Right. But let's pull on the cultivate thread for a second, because a lot of folks want to cultivate community. It's a great mission and a great vision.
Right.
But actually doing it is a whole different story.
Right.
What did cultivate look like for you?
For me, it looks like it's kind of two-pronged. So, one, you've got to create a space where folks can get to know each other. So, just a little thing that you can do if you have a Facebook group, for example, is by asking get to know you questions or just fun questions that are very easy to answer, kind of entertaining. And they don't even have to be related to whatever your business is. The key is that you're trying to spark engagement and get people talking. So, like, let's say you post something about, hey, what's the latest TV show you binge? Okay, that has nothing to do with your brand, right? But that's a really easy question that people love to answer. And what happens is other folks who have watched the same show that this person watched, they start talking about it in the comments, right? So, right there, you're cultivating community in a very, very simple way. And you may think, well, that has nothing to do with my business. It doesn't matter. The point is, you're trying to get people to feel like this space that you've created online is a safe space and a fun space, right? So that's one side of it. But then the other side of it is that you do need to kind of add some value that is related to your brand, right?
Yeah. So how do we
So
do that?
so you can, and there's several ways you can do that. You can do that by posting things that are inspirational to give them encouragement. You can do like Q&A days where on this day you take any questions that people have that are related to whatever your niche is. You can also do Facebook Live, or, and I'm using Facebook as an example, but you can do this, on Instagram or wherever. You can go live and kind of do a quick teaching and have that back and forth if people have questions. So again, it's two-pronged. Cultivating community, there's two sides of it. It's about having fun, a space where they can have fun and get to know other folks, but it's also giving them that information that
Yeah,
they need to accomplish.
that's right. It reminds me of the early days on Twitter. Folks, I happen to be, Twitter's my favorite bar in social media, just saying. I love hanging out there. And we would have these arbitrary conversations that had nothing to do with our brand. It was wonderful. Now, though, when you are a community leader like yourself with the Facebook group, LinkedIn, Discord, wherever, Slack, wherever you're going to, bring your community together, it feels like such a responsibility. How do you manage that part of it? And folks who have communities, what I'm talking about. You need to, again, just slip in those little bits of encouragement to get the dialogue going. You sit there with your fingers crossed that everybody just takes the lead and starts talking amongst themselves. How have you been able to, I guess, what leadership, what, trait did you tap into that helped you keep building community? What worked best?
I think well, I'm a teacher, as I've said. I
That helps.
taught for 10 years. And so that's one thing that really helps. Like, I'm always thinking about something to teach my community. My community is always on my mind. So that's one thing. And then as far as the trait, I guess it would be, people use the word inspiring a lot to describe me.
Yeah.
Which is flattering, but I've said to people, and I even say this in an essay in my book, that when I'm posting all of this inspirational stuff to encourage you and tell you to not give up, I'm really talking to myself and letting you eavesdrop because I think about quitting all the time. And and so I think that's another part of it too, just being authentic as well and letting folks know, hey, I think about quitting all the time, but I don't. And here's why I don't.
Yeah.
And so maybe you can use this to keep you from quitting as well.
I love that. Something fierce. That is phenomenal. In fact, and folks, this is when I have an Andy-licious moment. So let's just take it right now. Here's why. Yeah, because we are all walking through our paths, right? And it comes with harrowing moments and doubt and all those ugly feelings. But again, we're going to get them out. And so there's teachable moments. So I think there's some meme out there that talks about, your struggle right now is someone else's light to the pathway. That's what you're providing. And so that just fills my heart with so much joy, Javacia, that you can add that kind of value to your community. And it really is why they keep coming back, because you nurture their possibility and their potential. Why do you love coaching? Because you do provide that as well for writers, correct? And for women who want to, have an impact and an income.
Yes, I do one-on-one coaching, and then also through the membership program, I do group coaching for people who are members of the collective. Why do I love it? Someone asked me recently, I can't remember who it was, but someone was asking me, why are you so passionate about helping women? And I honestly don't know. I just like people always ask me like, what sparked this? And I don't know. I'm obsessed with women. I say that all the time. I'm obsessed with women. I think we are just amazing creatures. And I also feel this kinship to every woman on the planet. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you look like, how old you are, who you worship, doesn't matter. If you're a woman, I feel like we're connected.
That's right.
I have no idea where that comes from. Something I have always felt. And then with the writing, storytelling is something that I feel like has so much power.
Yes.
When we tell our own story, it empowers us. We also empower the people who hear our story, because we make them feel less alone.
Yeah.
Our stories can heal us. Our stories can heal other people. And so we take my obsession with women with my belief in the power of writing. And that's where C. Jane Wright comes from. Me just wanting everyone to experience the power of writing.
And this is where I think some chokeholds happen for people, like, I can't write, no way, and I can't even write a post for social media, but your voice is important. You do have something to say. And sure, there are people who can speak extemporaneously, beautifully, but they go to write, they're like, and vice versa. How do you help? Like, someone's watching the show today and they want to have more of an impact, and they're building a business, but they know they have words that need to get out there about the work that they're doing, but they feel inadequate and uncertain about the words, being able to really lay out good sentences and being able to take people on a journey with their words and the storytelling. How do they work with you and the C. Jane Wright platform to get better at this?
So if you'd like to work with me or join our community or both, just go to cjanewrightbham.com and you can link up with us there. You'll find all the information. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram, because I'm always posting things and chatting on stories about things. But really, what I want to tell everyone is to just write. Just write. Just write, just write, just write. You are only going to get better by writing more. You can't just think about writing and hope that you get better from that. You gotta actually do the work. So just write. Your bad will get better, and your good will be great eventually.
Yeah.
So just keep writing.
You had to do another important thing during this 11-year period, which is you had to build relationships with publications. I know from my fellow female writers, it is a big deal when they get picked up, and especially when they get picked up and paid for their content, for their words. How did you build those relationships with publications so that they would love to hear about what someone from the C. Jane Wright community was doing, or creating opportunities for referrals and leads for your community?
So, two ways. One, I will say I have an unfair advantage because I am a trained journalist, right? I'm a trained, experienced journalist, which means I know what publications want, because I've been on the other side of it, right? So, so I do have that unfair advantage, but you can have that advantage too, because I'm going to tell you what they want. You've got to make sure that there is an angle. You need to be sure that you can explain why now. Why should they write about this now? A lot of people will never ask that question, and that's why their pitch
Yeah.
so that was one thing that helped. I had that unfair advantage. But honestly, the main thing that has helped me is CJ and Wright. As I've built CJ and Wright, it started to build a lot of buzz around town about me. And so people wanted to, first, people started writing about CJ and Wright. And then once they were writing about CJ and Wright and getting to know me, what would happen is people, an editor, for example, would approach me to write a story about CJ and Wright, but then in the process learned that I had this journalism background. And so then they were like, oh, also, do you want to write for my publication? And so I would start writing for them after they wrote the story about CJ and Wright. I would start writing about them.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, it worked out really well.
That's wonderful. So before we go on to your book, I just want to do a quick little howdy do to these wonderful folks tuning in. Amy Meadows, love your positive attitude and encouragement. Thank you, Amy. And when Javacia says she feels a connection to all women, it gives me chills and I feel hope for the world.
That's such a sweet thing to say, Charlene.
Thank you, Charlene. And LinkedIn, right? I agree with writing being a healer. Just finished writing a book. Now editing. Ooh. Let us know who you are and the name of your book. And we want to be able to promote you and add more wind to your sails. Yay. So speaking of, find your way back, write your way through anything. What compelled you to write a book? I mean, it seems like a natural segue, of course, but let's talk about the story behind the story.
Yeah, and there's definitely a story behind the story. So I actually started writing this book in 2017, and it was not good. It was just not working at all. And it wasn't working because it didn't have a focus. I was talking to my husband about it one day, and he said to me, oh, I've been mentioning to people that you're writing a book, and they ask me what it's about, and I don't know what to tell them. I have no elevator pitch. And I realized I have no elevator pitch. I don't know what the book is about either. It had no focus whatsoever. I was just trying to put in everything I had ever written that I liked. That was not working at all. So I just abandoned it and was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to stick to my journalism, stick to column writing. I've been really fortunate in that I had my own column in a couple of magazines. And I was like, I'm just going to stick to this.
Yeah.
And then cancer happened. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in January of 2020.
Oh, no.
So yeah, right before the pandemic. So yeah. But suddenly I had a focus for my book. And also I had a sense of urgency about getting this book done. And so I knew then that what I wanted this essay collection to be was to show people how you can write your way through anything, how I've used writing throughout my life to write my way through the hardest, darkest times, but how I've also used writing to create this life that I love as a full-time writerpreneur, as I like to call myself. So I wanted the essay collection to show people that this is possible with my own stories. But also, if you get the book, which I hope you will if you haven't already, you'll see there's also writing prompts throughout the book because I want you to write your way through anything.
It's filled with teachable moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and when you say you can write your way through anything, I'm a fan of The Artist's Way, which takes you, prompts you in the morning to do, quote, the morning pages, and I start every day with morning pages.
I love it.
And so it's about getting the converse, just putting anything on paper and getting all of that out. But I do use it also for gratitude. I use it all the time for intention, figuring out problems. Right. What is important to you in that folks can take away on being able to find your way back like you did by writing your way through anything. Like, what does that writing your way through anything mean? And how do you help people tap into that ability as well?
One thing that I've started doing a lot more of is sharing journaling prompts, and these are the same kind of prompts that helped me get through things, and I do this for myself too. So I'll give you a quick example. My birthday was back in February, and I woke up in a terrible mood. Right, it was my birthday. I was supposed to be happy. I was in an awful mood. And I was like, this is not a happy birthday. And so I wrote my way through it. So I actually sat down, I wrote some journal prompts for myself, and then I actually worked through the prompts. And I'll share them with you actually so that you
Oh,
can
good.
see a good example of what I mean when I say this. So there are 3 prompts that I worked through. One was, what are you grateful for today? And I think that's a prompt that we can use any day, right?
Any day, any time of the day.
Any time of the day, because it gets you, it helps you to stop focusing on all the things that are going wrong. Because that's what I was doing that day, because my birthday plans had been canceled because of COVID. And so I was focusing on everything that was wrong. And a good way to pull yourself out of that is just, what are you grateful for today? I was also doing that thing that we all do where we beat ourselves up over what we haven't accomplished yet, right? I was doing that.
It's
And
taking
so,
forever for me too, and comparing yourself to everybody who's much further along.
exactly. And we all do that. And so the prompt that I used to help myself out of that was, what have you done that would make your 11-year-old self proud? And so I
Aw.
wrote through that, and then, the last prompt I worked through was, "What will you do this year to become the woman you're meant to be?" So, by the time I worked through all of those prompts, I was excited for the day, and I was like, "Yes, it is a happy birthday."
That is a tremendous mind shift exercise, folks. You can see that process when you're feeling just so gloomy and everything. And boy, we've got a lot of reasons today to feel like everything's just going down the tubes. But in order to pull yourself back, it can be some gratitude can be something like, okay, I'm up. I got out of bed today, or the sky is blue, or gosh, that coffee was delicious. Something very simple. But
Mhm.
then you moved into the prompts. I love the one about the 11-year-old because folks, we easily forget, right, Javacia, how far we've come
Yes, exactly.
because, because we're just so in the trenches, we forget what was so hard 5 years ago, 3 days ago, or as an 11-year-old is just like, yeah, yeah, I got that. So got that now. I love those prompts. And when you're feeling like you were feeling, to have prompts, because you're not going to come up with those prompts yourself. You turn to your handy journal prompting list and said, okay, I'm going to do these 4 prompts to help shift myself. And then let's talk about what happens as a writer when you go through these journal prompts.
Yeah, so I did write those prompts for myself. I know that not everybody can do that, so that's why you can follow me on Instagram and use my.
That's right.
But what happens for me as a writer is I started to get excited about my present day, and I also started to get excited about the future. One of the things that I do, like for the prompt, what will you do this year to become the woman you're meant to be? I started making a list of things I wanted to do, but then I like to do a lot of scripting. And if you're not familiar with the concept of scripting, is basically where you write about the future that you want as if it already is. And I love doing that. And I think that's a really good exercise for founders and entrepreneurs too.
Give us an example.
So let's imagine where you want your business to be a year from now, 5 years from now. With scripting, you would just describe it. You just start describing it, but as if it already is. So, my business makes six figures. I have 5 people on my team. We've been featured on Forbes, whatever it is that you are dreaming of. You write it as if it already is. And it's a really powerful exercise because for me personally, number one, it gets me excited. I get really, really excited about the future. And I've done this process with other folks, and they always say that they get really excited about their future too. But something else pretty magical that happens for me, at least when I do scripting, is the how starts to download in my brain. Because I tell people, like, don't worry about the how when you're scripting, like, just dream and have fun with it. But I've noticed that after I script, the how starts to download in my brain.
It's amazing how that works.
And there actually is some science behind that.
It's that reactive part of your brain that, and you can do it. Like, remember you saw a car that you loved, and the next thing you know, you'd never seen it before. And the next minute, it's like, where did all these cars that
everywhere? Right, exactly. It's the same thing. So, like, once this has become your reality here, because your mind believes whatever you tell it, right? So, if you've written this as if it already is, your mind now thinks it already is true. Yeah. And therefore, your brain starts looking for the things that make it true. And so that's why the how starts downloading in your brain.
Right. And Tony Robbins says, don't die in the tyranny of how, that whole like how.
Right.
No.
Just dream. Yeah. Yep. Just let yourself dream and have fun with it.
I love that. And I always like to know how. I always add in, how am I feeling? Right. When I had like, oh, it feels so good to fill in the blank. And folks, it really does work. When I am stuck on a problem and I just don't have no idea how it's going to happen, I stay curious, do this wonderful scripting, which is so powerful. And Javacia is absolutely right. All of a sudden, you'll be like in the shower, the best place to get great ideas. and it downloads, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to jump out wet and write that down. It's really, really helpful, but also it helps you stay curious and in possibilities. And, you don't want to get caught up too much in the timeline, because life is going to happen, but it will come about. And, this show, Javacia, is a perfect example. I was in my head, I wanted to create community, celebration, conversation, connection. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, the next thing I knew, I was setting up this live show. And so sometimes it can just be some feelings you want to have as well. Let's say hi. LinkedIn user. Oh, that's April. The title of her book is Dream to Delivery. Ooh.
Corny story. I love it. I love it.
It's so perfect. It's going to make so many people smile, but it's also going to help the foodies out there, because let me tell you, I had a food business for 5 years, and it is very hard to bring something to the shelf and to consumers. April, I am so excited for that. Very excited. And Javacia, so pleased to know you pulled through cancer to sit before us with such vibrancy. Hallelujah. Cancer has taken from our family multiple times over the past few years. I believe focus and purpose are also important to healing. Yeah. Oh, thank you for that, LinkedIn user. I think we all can take a moment and just have a virtual hug with Javacia in the fact that she did get herself through this. So wonderful. So AT says scripting, nice. And and have to stay on brand, of course. And Peter, hi Peter, good to see you. Can you help me write video scripts? That's a very good question. Those of us who are creators on YouTube, right? And putting out things in this visual world, sometimes it's like, how do I say that? So you're absolutely right. Being able to write is so important. So what does a successful outcome for your book look like? Because this is your first time as a published author, right? I mean, you've published many essays and in publications, but is this your first book?
It's the first book that's all mine. So I've been in a lot of books. Like I've had some of my essays or poetry featured in books, but this is the first book that's all all me. So success, there's a few different sides of that. So
Since we were talking about scripting.
right. So according to Beyonce's internet, a self-published book only the average self-published book, because I did independently release this. The average self-published book only sells 250 copies, period.
Okay.
Which is really sad, right?
It really, really is. That's average, though, everybody. Remember.
Average, right. So my initial goal is just to not be average, right? I want to sell more than 250 copies, which I haven't sat down and tallied it up recently, but I'm pretty sure I've already met that goal.
Oh, I am quite confident that you have. I mean, first of all, everyone, don't you just love how Javacia just connects? She's so candid. She's so honest. And, you share your failures, just like, hey, human journey here.
Yeah.
There we go. But this is so important for people to know. And some people will hold out for a publisher. They will wait. I need an agent and I need a publisher.
What do you have to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to work just as hard both ways? Just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely work hard both ways. And it's a personal decision. And, frankly, I decided that I was going to independently release this book because of the sense of urgency that cancer puts.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like I could risk waiting 5 years to get an agent and then another 5 years to get a book deal.
Right. Now, even with your vast experience, you know how long it takes just to come up with a publication date,
right?
And how you have to move forward and be part of their schedule and that they can push it back. So I love that you did self-publish. Shout out to my good friend, Self-Publishing Dale. I don't know if you follow him, Javacia, but if you don't, he's got the best hacks and has a phenomenal community for those who are self-publishing authors. And as far as the essays, this was a big time in your life. I mean, all of a sudden the cancer gave you the how were you? We don't want that. Okay, folks, we want to be able to healthy write a book. But in this case, it did prompt you. You're healthy today, correct?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Congratulations for that. That's huge. In what way did this help you, especially during the dark days? Because usually when you're sick, folks, people can come by and hang out with you. They can bring all sorts of things, but you got it during the very scary early days of COVID.
Yeah.
When, we were watching what was happening in New York City, here in my hometown, Boston. I mean, it went to hell in a handbasket very, very quickly here. How did the writing help you? And how did you know that this is what was going to be perfect for your book?
So initially, the writing, just journaling, helped me process my feelings.
Yeah.
But then, so I was diagnosed in January. I didn't go public per se until May.
Yeah.
And once I did, and I started writing about it on my blog and sharing on social media, and I was also interviewed by different publications, including Oprah magazine. Yeah, I was featured in Oprah, or quoted in Oprah magazine. But anyway, as I started to share my story with other people, it helped me heal. It made me feel like it had a purpose, because cancer is such a stupid.
Well, and it's isolating. So people go, oh my gosh, but unless they have had it, they have no idea.
And so it just helped me make sense of it. It gave me a sense of purpose, and that helped with my healing. So from journaling, just to process my feelings, and then sharing my story with other people, which gave me a sense of purpose, all of that really helped me through the process.
I love that. And at the same time, you were continuing what you do so well. You were teaching others through your writing, which is even coping skills and other ways to get through a very difficult time. And because you were willing to share this journey with your community, that helps, because you can keep the tonality like, oh my God, she's going to die. No, we're going to hold her. We're going to do our scripting for Javacia. It's going to be, oh, isn't it great? You got through that. boom, easy breezy, done, clean bill of health. And that's really remarkable. And Spiffy Eats has a wonderful question right here. Can a publisher pick up your book later on if you self-publish?
Yes, they can actually. I don't know if you all are familiar with the book Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jane Allen. She independently released that book a few years ago, and she built community, and she just kept, and she wrote a sequel to it as well. And the book just kept getting so much buzz because she had cultivated that community. And so last year, the first book was re-released by, I can't remember which publisher, but one of the big, I think it was one of the big five. The first one was re-released last year, and then the sequel was re-released last month.
Excellent.
So, yes, the publisher can pick up your
That's
book.
so great. And see, what publishers really love is your social capital that you've built up over the years. So that community, it doesn't have to be a big community, but it has to be a devoted community, an engaged community. And followers, you have a lot of followers on Instagram. And so that means a lot. So, folks, it's the whole Rome wasn't built in a day type of thing. It's a marathon for writers as well.
Right.
And writerpreneurs as well. And folks, when you're a writer, just same thing as when you're an artist, you are an entrepreneur because you create that painting, you take that beautiful photo, you have to exhibit, you have to sell, you have to do all the parts and gnarly pieces that an entrepreneur does. Same thing with a writer. So own your entrepreneurship status because you have to do everything a founder does, except you're not going to be raising capital to make the journey easier. You can do maybe some crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, but mostly you're out there hustling and you're doing everything a small business or any business does, right? Javacia?
Yeah, but you can, because you were saying you're not going to raise capital as a writer or artist. But one thing that I did is I applied for grants, and I actually used that money to help fund my self-publishing journey. So
oh my gosh, oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
So you kind of do raise capital as well.
Yes, you do, right? Add that to the list. So really, you're not just a writer. That's a wonderful thing. You're a writerpreneur. I'm glad you honed in on that. So as you've been traveling this journey for years, I'm sure you've come across a tool or two or a tip or two that would really benefit anybody else, a resource. What is your favorite that you can share with the community today?
I've been thinking really hard about that. I don't know that I have a favorite resource. But as far as tips, I think we've already talked about this, but it's so important to cultivate community, but it's also important to listen to that community.
Ooh, so how do you listen without feeling like judged or badly about the feedback?
You just, well, first of all, it's important that you remember that you are not your work, which is very difficult for a writer. Because I definitely used to be the kind of person who would say, writing isn't just what I do, it's who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of artists say that.
Yeah.
But that's a dangerous thing to say, which I have learned as I've gotten older. Because when we attach our identity to our work, it can be very stifling. It can, when someone does criticize our work, we take it to mean that we're a terrible person. It can even stop us from creating in the first place because we feel like, oh, it has to be perfect in order for me to put this out there. And it's never going to be perfect. So you're never going to put anything out there if you're waiting for perfection. So, detach your identity from.
Okay, so here's the stitch that on a pillow moment, everyone. Take it with you. I see that pillow on the couch or the chair, and it says, "You are not your work."
Right.
Love that. Perfect for the pillow. And so important because so many of us, we can get caught up in disappointing and all the real human emotions as we tap into our brilliance and have the courage to share it with the world. And this is what keeps so many people from not stepping out and taking that risk. And it's not easy. What are you working on that's really hard right now that we could add wind to your sails? I mean, we're all going to run out and, of course, buy a copy.
Yes, buy the book.
Find your way back.
That's what I'm working really hard on right now, promoting the book. I also am always working on growing the CJ Wright community. So I would love for you to come join us and be a part. You can be a part of our free Facebook group, or if you want even more help and more community, you can join the Collective, which is our paid membership program. So yeah, those are the main two things that I'm really working hard on. Just and community.
And I know you said this a lot, Javacia, during our conversation, but folks, do not underestimate, especially as writers, the community. I've heard about writing community. What is like your favorite takeaway from having launched a writing community that you see others benefiting so much from that connection?
I see them benefiting from the success of other folks. So when they see someone else be successful, they can learn from it. If that person offers, here's some practical tips of how I did what I did. But even before that, even before they get those practical tips, they get inspired and encouraged by the success of someone else. It shows them, okay, yes, I can do this too.
Right.
So that's been the biggest thing. You get inspired by the success of other people.
Yeah. And that evidence and that representation is so important because again, we can feel so isolated. And why is anybody going to want what I have? Well, you know what? As Seth Godin always says, sure, it's been done before, but not by you and not for us.
Exactly.
That's great. So I have one final question before we go ahead and do our book giveaway, everybody. And that is, we already know how you write your way through feeling inadequate, right? But how has entrepreneurship, as you're looking back over the last 11 plus years, how has writerpreneurship served you both personally and professionally?
Well, as I mentioned, professionally, CJ Wright has just opened so many doors for me. I had the opportunity to have my own column in 2 different magazines, and both of those opportunities, the editors came to me, and they came to me because of CJ Wright. So it's really helped me as a freelance journalist, but also with this book, it's helped me greatly. A lot of self-published authors aren't in bookstores. Bookstores typically don't carry independently released books. But my book is going to be in 3 bookstores because and 2 of those 3 came to me. And again, that happened because of CJ Wright, because I built this business and the buzz around the business and the community. So that's how it's helped me professionally and personally. Some of my best friends I met through CJ Wright. And when I was going through cancer, the women of CJ Wright just showered me with love and support.
Yeah.
Sending me cards and food and flowers and just inspirational messages and blankets to keep me warm in the cold chemo room. And they just showered me with love. And so that is priceless. That means more to me than any amount of money, any amount of book sales.
Oh, I'm feeling it. Aren't you feeling it? Viewers and listeners, so good. Just 2 final comments here before I pull the lever on the free giveaway. And that is April, the Corny Bread Gal, saying she loves the cover illustration for your book.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay. And then our wonderful friend, Inspiration, Sense of Community and Friendships. That's what you find at C. Jane Wright. I'm just going to throw that in there because I know she's one of your folks there. Oh, I love that. Okay, so let me do a quick screen share here, and we'll pull up the wonderful giveaway. Just give me a few seconds, folks. This is just a little bit of the awkward moment during the giveaway, but we'll pull this up and we're going to have such a good time. Everybody ready? Let me make sure my screen is sharing properly. It is. And let's draw. Woohoo! Who's gonna win? Oh my gosh, a guy won. I love that. Peter, find me, Peter, so I can make sure I get you a free copy. You know, and of course, Javacia, you talk about this, that you love women, but you know what? Our guys are also important as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
In the process, making sure that they get what they need. Okay, well, thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm so happy we got that. Any last thoughts for folks before I pop you in the green room and wrap up?
You had asked me about success, and I
Yeah.
wanted to say that a lot of people who've started reading the book or finished reading the book, they're actually doing the writing prompts. And that is making me so happy. And that means more to me than book sales. So again, it's about that impact. And so to know that people are actually working through the prompts and that is having an impact on their lives, that means so much to me.
Okay, viewers, so you know what to do. The links are in the show notes. So add some wind to Javacia's sales and go ahead and to your own sales. And go ahead and download or buy the hard copy of Find Your Way Back. You will be so happy you did. Thank you so much for joining me today. You enlightened so many souls from this conversation. I am loving it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Okay, I'm going to pop you into quote the green room and wrap up here. I can't wait to do more prompts for writing, and I hope you enjoyed and the gems that Javacia shared with us today, but also her heart. You could see that she cares so deeply about your writing journey and how you can use it to transform your life, make some money, and definitely have an impact on the world. So let me tell you who's coming up next on the Startup Life Live Show. And it is Friday, March 25th at 12 p.m. ET. It's serial entrepreneur Angela Sanchez. She's a civil engineer, and she decided to change the diversity landscape in the construction industry and built an app that easily and instantly connects top-rated minority subcontractors and job seekers with construction contractors. Don't we love seeing our women and our women of color in the construction industry leading? It is such great representation and a long time coming. So be sure to tune in on March 25th, 12 p.m. to hear Angela's founder journey stories and more. And how do you do that? Well, you join the Startup Life Live meetup group. Yay! That way you'll get an alert every time I post a new show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am just a live wire now from this conversation with Javacia. Just going to get back to writing and doing more. I hope you do too. Until I see you again, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Remember, you've got this. Those tools are there. Script it, like Javacia said, and you will have the house starting to show up everywhere. Mwah. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.